Alright, welcome back, welcome back. We are back at it again, still grinding out our titles. Let's take a look at where we left off. Alright, let's see. We left off, we had unlocked the Neophyte Smith. So it looks like there's a couple Smith titles we can unlock, and we'll have to work on those as we grind out here. We are working on finishing up the Mastery Master title, and then just continue on. So, arts. We are about 200 away from getting the title for Shockwave Slash, so we will just keep doing it.
This won't take long. You won't live to regret. Great work, Captain.
You're not doing so bad there yourself, Asbel.
Take long. Draw. Roll down. Next. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade. This won't take long. Draw. Roll down. No one can stand before my blade. Won't take long. Draw. Roll down. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
He continues the madness of grinding skills. I'm gonna do it until I have all of the titles that I can possibly have, or like basically until I have no more titles left to level, and then we'll push forward. And I'm pretty sure there is a point where we will run out of titles to master. Largely because I think certain ones can only be unlocked via the story, and like skits. There's also like, I don't know if they replaced cooking in this game with the mixer or not, and like the dualizing, but in the other Tales titles, you could get titles for like cooking and stuff. So I know once we do actually start the narrative, like bosses are going to roll over.
Dirtying my blade.
Stay sharp, even against
Roll down. We won't fail.
I swear Twitch sucks with latency. Yeah, I could agree with that. It could also, I had to refresh 4 times. Oh damn. It could also be me. My computer might be having some problems and be acting up.
Hardly worth dirtying my blade.
Everything looks good, but my internet was like being glitchy a few minutes ago. Dude, I wish somebody would have told me that trying to get your car registered in Texas is a pain in the ass.
That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
Alright. So that one needs 250. We've got some masteries here. Lightning Strike and Demon Fang. So next up will be Shockwave. There's one here. I wonder what it is. I haven't owned a vehicle, so I wouldn't know. Oh my god, dude. So I went to go get my car registered today because my plates are expiring. So I need to get Texas plates anyway because we just moved here.
We won't fail.
I get there and I'm like, hey, I need to do like I need to like get my vehicle registered here for Texas. They're like, well, do you have an appointment? And I was like, no, because in Utah you don't have to have an appointment to get your car registered. You can just go in with your paperwork, like your title and stuff, and you may have to sit for a while without an appointment, but you can go in without an appointment. But they're like, no, you need to leave and schedule an appointment online. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, well, I need a temp tag at the very least. And they're like, okay, well, you can fill out this application and then come back. So I drove 30 minutes to get to the tax office and then to be told to leave. Got the paperwork, drove home, filled the damn thing out, Drove all the way back another 30 minutes to get a temp tag. Fucking annoying. And then I have to go back and finish doing the registration and pay for the registration on like Thursday.
Dirtying my blade.
And I've heard that it's even worse to try and get your license out here.
Stay sharp, even against the dark.
Moon down. You're gone. Let's keep moving.
You know, I know you gotta do appointments to be safe. Yeah, I would. You absolutely need to make sure you do appointments.
It won't take long. Okay, that was hard.
Yeah, license in Utah, super easy. I go in. If I have to retake the written test, I retake the written test, and then you're out, basically. But I heard here it's a nightmare. 3 hours? Holy shit.
My blade.
Well, guess I'll be scheduling PTO for that day.
It won't take long. Okay, you won't live. Moon down. Let's keep moving.
And then, like I was saying, we went out to dinner, so we went and got some barbecue, and
That was hard.
there's the Regal out there, which is a pretty nice theater. We went to go see Wolfman last week. The lines are terrible.
That was hardly
Their
worth
process
dirtying
is
my
so
blade.
strict. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's just DMVs everywhere, though. Like, I hate going to the DMV. Or the DLD. I don't know if it's the same here.
Okay, moon down. Victory is ours.
So we were like, oh yeah, you know, I was gonna surprise my partner and take her to see this movie she wanted to see at the Regal there. So we got our tickets. We're heading to the VIP area because Regal VIP out here is actually pretty fucking swanky. Unlimited popcorn, unlimited drinks, unlimited ice cream. So we got our tickets, headed to the VIP area. We're getting our drinks and our popcorn. And the power goes out, and we're like, what the hell? And so we stood there for a minute with some of the employees, and they're like, this is not something that normally happens. They're like, we don't normally get power outages here. So we waited for the power to come back on, which, I mean, it was probably like 3 minutes tops that the power was out. We grabbed our concessions, and we're getting on the elevator that takes us up to the theater. And as the doors are closing to the elevator, they set off alarms and started telling people to evacuate.
We won't fail.
So we stood outside, so we evacuated, and we went out to the little like square because there's like fountain and all this stuff out there, and we're waiting by the fountain, and they come out and they're like, okay, we need y'all to move back a little bit, so we moved back, and by the time we had left, we were like, you know what, we'll just come back another time, and try this again. By the time we left, they had moved everybody that was waiting to the parking lot. Like, people were standing in the parking lot. So, very curious as to what happened out there. If we go back this weekend, I'll try to find out, but I don't know if we'll go back or if we'll wait until this week when, like, people might be like working and stuff, and we can just go see a movie without a bunch of people in the theater, because that is my biggest, like, I love going to movies, hate sitting in a theater full of people.
Moon down. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
It didn't used to be that way. I used to love going to movies and didn't mind, you know, like a theater with people in it. But lately, people have become so rude during movies that, like, I can't stand it. there was one movie we went to go see
Won't take long.
where if the person who had walked into the bathroom hadn't walked into the bathroom at the time that they did, I probably would have gotten arrested for beating the ever-living shit out of a guy. We had gone to go see one of the Purge movies. It was the last Purge movie. It ruins the immersion. So, like, there's certain movies where I feel like the crowd can really, like, make or break a movie, and I'll get into that. But, like, so we had gone to see the last Purge movie, and we're sitting there, and this guy in a fucking red, white, and blue cowboy hat, an American flag cowboy hat, just fucking douchebag, comes in with his hat on, sits in front of us, keeps his hat on the entire time, and then proceeds to get on his phone and text and talk loudly on his phone and talk to the date he brought with him, and was just rude the entire movie. And then at one point I was like, shut the fuck up. And my partner kind of was like, you might want to chill. And, you know, I was like, fucking ridiculous. Like, I said something along the lines of, like, it's really sad that, you know, people's parents didn't raise them better. And so then the movie ends, and we're getting our stuff ready to get out and leave, and this guy spends the entire time he's walking out of the fucking aisle and towards the stairs just fucking mean-mugging me, like, just staring me down. So I was like, you know what, I need to go to the bathroom. And we're on the way to the bathroom, and guess who's standing there in front of the mirror as I'm entering the bathroom? So I turn around I was going to grab him by the back of the head and slam his head into the mirror, and somebody else walked in right behind me, and so that dude got saved that night. Like, that dude got lucky. And, like, it's not always a bad thing to have people in a theater. It's just when people can't act like respectful fucking human beings is what ruins it. We had, like, when Paranormal Activity came out, one of the things that made the first Paranormal Activity movie so fucking fun to see in the theater was the crowd. It was the energy from the crowd. It was the just the immersion with the crowd watching that movie. And there's been several others. Like, if you go to Alamo Drafthouse or Studio Movie Bar and Grill, you can have those people kicked out. They get one warning. I do want to go to Alamo. One of the things I was really excited about when moving to Texas was the Alamo Drafthouse. So we'll find one near us. We have near us, we have a Regal, we have a Cinemark, I think we have an AMC, I'm not sure, and then we have a Star Cinema Grill, and the Star Cinema Grill we went to when we first moved here was really fucking cool.
No one can stand before my blade.
And the Regal has been really nice, so if I can find an Alamo close to where we're at, I will definitely hit it up, because it's one of the places I was most excited for. Because Alamo is also not kid-friendly, correct? Because that's another thing that would drive me up the wall. We went to go see Spider-Man, the second Spider-Verse movie, and I was so fucking excited for that movie. And I get it, it's an animated movie, it's technically a kid's movie if you want to look at it that way. So yeah, kids are going to be there. But my god, like, when you let your kids turn the theater into a playground, and we had kids running up and down, we had kids screaming and crying and fighting, we had a couple, like a husband and a wife fighting with each other while we were trying to watch this movie, and like, that's one of the reasons why I was like, I fucking hate it. Like, if I could open up a theater and like run a theater, I would have separate, like, it's kid friendly, but I think they'll have screenings where kids aren't allowed to go because curfew. Hell yeah, that's what I like to hear. If there's after a certain time, because that's what I want to do. Like, if I could ever open up a theater, I would have it like, okay, kids and teens can go see movies from this time to this time, and then after this time, it's 21 plus. And if you can't act like an adult at a 20, you know, during 21 plus hours, I'll kick your ass out and you're not allowed back in. Ever.
Victory is ours. This won't take long.
things I'm most excited for since we moved to Texas, Alamo, because I've always like Alamo just sounds like a very nice and better like theater to go to than what we had in Utah. And they'll do vintage movie screenings. Alamo respects viewers and they give warnings before the movie starts as a commercial. Hell yeah.
Stay sharp, even against
And I'm excited for concerts because there is a lot of bands that like they go on tour, and they would go on tour and go to like almost every state except Utah, and like they would tour like their entire tour would take them in a circle around Utah. And there's so many bands that I want to see that we never got to because of that. So I'm super stoked to have some different like concert venues to go to and a wider like array of bands to go see.
That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
I have tickets to go see Poppy in April, and I have tickets to go see one of my all-time favorite pop punk bands called Hot Milk, and they have not toured over here in any way that we could have gone to see them. Most of the time Hot Milk has come over here, it's all been like festival tours on like Sad Summer or other Warped Tour like concerts. So when Hot Milk was like, yeah, we'll be touring with Magnolia Park and we'll be in Dallas, I immediately was like, I'm getting tickets. I cannot wait to see Hot Milk. It's gonna be so fucking good.
That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
The only vintage movie I want to go see a screening of is Plan 9 from Outer Space. Largely because it's one of the worst movies ever made.
That was hardly worth dirtying my blade. It won't take long. Draw. You won't live to regret it. Blow him down. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
We Shockwave Slashing. How many times will we use this? Let me see. 740. So 60 more times, and we should get the title for it.
This won't take long. Draw. Next. Blow him down. Slash. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
stay sharp, even against jumps.
Oh wow. Have a monthly thing for special screening of old movies, or even watch parties where people are free to reenact or quote along with the movie. I wish I could go more often, but I'm currently restricted. When I lived in DFW, I wanted to go around for old games. They did old games. That's kind of cool. Hey man, like I said, if you ever want to come hang out and, you know, have a weekend to chill or whatever, you're more than welcome to come here. There's some old game stores we could go to. A couple malls around us we could go check out. There's some record stores.
Let's keep moving.
We have fucking... I will tell you right now, if you cannot find a movie in our house to watch, then you don't want to watch a movie. We have over 600 Blu-rays. And count.
Stay sharp, even against jumps.
We won't fail. This won't take long. Okay, next. Let's keep moving.
It's on my list to visit friends that are in Texas. A few years ago, a friend and I went on an AEW wrestling match, and it was one of the best nights I've ever had. Hell yeah, that's cool. I never really got into wrestling. I just don't think I ever had, like, the opportunity to really, like, sit and watch it, but that's fucking sick. little bit of a headache. It is not fun.
It won't take long. Okay, you won't live. Slow down. We won't fail.
Stay sharp, even against chumps. Last chance to flee.
Slow down. Victory is ours.
Actually, it isn't for everybody, but if you watch it with friends, it gets tolerable to watch. That's the reason I got into it. I used to like WWF before it became WWE. I know, like, my dad, and the limited encounters I had with him, was a very big fan of wrestling and would get very, very upset if you tried to convince him that it was fake. And I know some people who are, like, really into it, and I'm all for it. Like, that's cool. I just don't think it's for me. I have the watch, like I like to watch like weird shit. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Kaiju Big Battle, but it was a fucking wrestling show where people dressed up like different kaiju monsters and fucking beat the shit out of each other. So I used to watch that, and every once in a while when I was a kid, we would flip through channels, and I would stop on the Spanish channel and watch some of the masked luchador wrestling. It was on G4, yeah. G4 and Tech TV were where I got some of my, like, all-time favorite, like, I saw some of my all-time favorite animes and shows. Like, the one anime that, like, I honestly never thought it would get a Blu-ray, and we talked about it. It was called Duel. And I don't know if you ever watched Tenchi Muyo, but Duel was created by the guy who wrote and created Tenchi Muyo. And it's an alternate reality to Tenchi. So it's kind of got that, like, Tenchi Muyo, like, fantasy, like, sci-fi harem aspect to it, but not as bad as the Tenchi series. And it's a mecha anime, and the fucking craziness is, so this kid can see an alternate dimension. Like, he sees a parallel dimension. And in this parallel dimension, he sees giant robots fighting. And he writes about it. Like, he's writing, like, a fan fiction, or kind of like a, you know, like, writing what he sees. And one day he's sitting in class, and he's looking out the window, and he sees these two mecha fighting right next to the school. And one of the mecha looks like it's going to crash into the school. And so he starts freaking out, and his entire class is like, oh, he's being weird again, because they can't see it. They don't see this parallel world. Except for this girl, and the girl invites him to her house. And her dad's like this mad scientist, and her dad accidentally sends him into that dimension, or into that reality that he can see. And it turns out that, yeah, there's giant robots here, and there's been these, like, giant mecha fights going on. And he gets teleported into the middle of one, and the one mecha crashes, and he notices, you know, the pilot's injured, and he goes to save her. And he gets in the mech and starts to pilot it, and people are shocked by this, because in this reality, only women are supposed to be able to pilot the mechs. And only women have ever been able to pilot the mechs. So for like half of this show, he has to, anytime they take the mech out, anytime they have to go fight the kaiju, he has to dress as a woman so that nobody knows that there's a man piloting these mechs. And the mech designs, the whole series is just fucking wild, and I loved it. And then, like, Tech TV and G4 disappeared. Like, they stopped being a thing, and I was like, well, damn, I don't know that I'll ever see that anime again. The other one that I loved off of the old G4 anime days was one called Silent Mobius. Really hard to explain that anime, but, like, just an absolute obscure gem. And yeah, I also remember when you used to be able to watch anime on the Sci-Fi Channel. The first anime I ever watched was called Armitage the Third, and it was on Sci-Fi.
Let's keep moving.
That almost sounds like Candidate for Goddess. I don't think I've watched that one. I've watched. There's some mech animes I've watched, like Full Metal Panic, a lot of Gundam, Escaflowne, Duel, and there's some that I have not jumped into yet. There's some that I do want to watch. What was the one? Because I added it to my list on Netflix, and I can't remember the damn name of it. God, there's so many mech animes. And this one was super popular. Like, people really liked this one. Wrestling is almost fake. The stunts are very much real. The story depends on who runs the show. Luckily, Vince McMahon is out of the game because he's a... Yeah, I've heard a lot of fucking crazy shit about him lately through Twitter. But a lot of these wrestlers are huge nerds that really want to give the crowd a good show. It changed the past 20 years for the better. That's good. Gundam. Oh, Macross. Used to watch a lot of Macross. Magic Knight Rayearth. But what was the one? Nadesco. Marsh's successor, Nadesco. That was a good one. I doubt I will find the fucking... what I'm looking for here. Panic, Nocturna Gundam. Alright. The mech is it has a drill? That's the one thing I can say about it is the mech has a drill, and that's all I really know about it. I don't think I've seen it in any of like the Super Robot games, but I could be wrong. Gurren Lagann. Yeah. I have that on my list to watch because it looks really cool. And I've heard amazing things about it.
This won't take long. Next, roll down. We won't fail.
Stay sharp, even against
Roll down. That was hardly worth dirty.
I have, let's see, what is on my Crunchyroll list? Because I used to watch a lot of stuff on Crunchyroll and then I kind of stopped.
Won't take long.
Fairy Tail. I started rewatching Fairy Tail.
Let's keep moving.
I love my Gundam. I love my mech anime. But there was something, like, as cheesy as the whole kind of like friendship is power trope can be, there was something about it in Fairy Tail that, like, I just loved I love Fairy Tail. Like, I think that's one of the fucking best animes I've ever seen. So I started watching Fairy Tail again, just because I wanted to relive some of that. It was mostly animated by guys working in Studio Gainax. Interesting. They also did, the only thing I know about Gundam is Gallant Char's theme. Oh, dude. Do you want, like... Gundam is wild, and it's, like, there's starting points that you could jump into with Gundam. I would say that, like, if you were to ever watch Gundam, starting with the original series, can be rough. That original series is very rough. Oh, dude, Fairy Tail. I got drawn in, so I like to give anime 5 to 10 episodes. If I'm not hooked within the first, like, 10 episodes, which gives them enough time to do either a mini arc or kind of, like, start out a little bit of a longer arc. If I'm not drawn in within those first 10 episodes, then I don't. Like, I drop it. I go find something else because I'm not going to get into it. And Fairy Tail, I did not get into it in the first 10 episodes. But at the time, I didn't really have much else to watch, and my partner was going to school at the time, and so I would go sit at the school and wait for her to get done so I could take her home, because we only had one car and just situations. So I would go chill and I would watch Fairy Tail on our tablet until she got out of class. And it took the first arc of Fairy Tail, so the first 50 episodes of Fairy Tail, and that first arc with Erza and the island and everything that happened there
We won't fail.
was just fucking amazing. And that's what drew me in. And then I just kept watching, and it just kept upping the stakes. And there were so many episodes that just hit you in the gut, like emotion-wise. And the guy who did Fairy Tail also did an anime that I had seen on Cartoon Network on Toonami called Rave Master, and that just kind of drew me to it as well. But like the story of Natsu and you know, him trying to find the dragon that raised him, and when we finally get to that, it's a huge, like, it's so good. I have not watched the second series. I have not watched the continuation of Fairy Tail. I need to, because I hear that it gets pretty toasty, but
It won't take long.
I have completed the first series where they fight the Demon Guild. Our arts. Okay, so Shockwave Slash is done. Now we're on to Frostbreaker. I remember reading it. I never read it. That was one that I didn't read. I read all of Bleach. I read all of My Hero. I read most of, I think there's probably like 10 or 20 chapters left of Black Clover. Rave Master's the one I liked because it sounded and looked cool, but I didn't have cable. The creator tried doing other stuff but failed. Monster Soul, Universal Monsters with rankings. I didn't know about Monster Soul. He also did one called Eden Zero, and Eden Zero is cut just like Rave Master and Fairy Tail. I haven't watched too much of the anime, but I did read like a chunk of the manga and thought that it was pretty cool.
It won't take long. Okay, next. Freeze! Victory is ours. It won't take long. Draw! Freeze!
And I miss the days of like Toonami anime. It was only 2 volumes. I heard of Eden Zero, but I don't know much about it. Yeah, there's like, I know the premise, and that's about it. Cause like I said, I didn't get too in, like I didn't dive too into Eden Zero.
Stay sharp, even against
Okay. Freeze! Let's keep moving.
There's some manga like from high school that I would like to find to like see if I could like ever read like the end of those. The problem is like when I was in high school, the main kind of like manga producer was Tokyo Pop, and I've heard that there is not great things about Tokyo Pop, and they kind of died off. So I don't know that like I'll ever find volumes of those manga to finish reading. One was called Rebirth, which is about like vampires and was kind of wild. And then the other one was the Ragnarok manga.
Dirtying my blade.
stay sharp, even against
Freeze! That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
Stay sharp, even against
Freeze!
commence annihilation.
Freeze! No one can stand before my blade.
I've seen a lot of different vampire animes because I was very drawn into stuff with vampires for a long time. There was one that I can't remember the name of. It was on Cartoon Network, but like the world was taken over by vampires, and then there was like a group of like people, kind of like exorcists, that fought against them. And one of them was like an android who didn't really like. Basically, he just followed orders and didn't really like. He was like a walking weapon, essentially. and the reason why that one like stuck with me or like resonated with me is there's an episode where they're trying to save this little girl, and the person with him just thinks that the robot will only follow orders in trying to sit and, you know, just eliminate the vampires with, you know, as many casualties as, like, it doesn't matter. He'll just go in and basically go in guns blazing. But he ends up, like, this android ends up getting, like, damaged and hurt because he spends the entire episode trying to save the little girl and kind of, like, going against his programming, and I thought that was a really cool premise. But I do not remember the rest of that anime for the life of me. Early 2000s when I had cable a little bit, so I saw SD Gundam. I never got into SD Gundam. Zoids, I fucking loved Zoids. I didn't watch Astro Boy 2003. Cyborg 009 was good, though.
Stay sharp, even against trouble.
You won't live to regret it. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
And it's kind of weird how some of those universes, like, stack up. Because, like, the Cyborg 009 universe is the same universe as Devilman. And there's been, like, crossovers between the two. Zoids, I wish Zoids had picked up more here. Because there was some cool shit in Zoids. Like, I really enjoyed Zoids. And I think there was, like, a newer series, but I didn't watch it. Because I couldn't find it anywhere. Gatchaman, G-Force, Battle of the Planets. Yeah. And like Zoid's toy, like Zoid's models and stuff, dude. Zoid's models are so fucking expensive here. It's insane. I am a hobbyist fucking Gunpla builder. And so I'll build Gundam models, and, you know, I can get Gundam models anywhere from 20 to 50 bucks. Zoids models, anywhere from fucking $100 to like $300. Like, Zoids models are stupid expensive.
Stay sharp, even against trouble. One last chance to
That was
And I probably should have bought more when we were in Japan. I bought a couple. Have not put them together. They're still in the box.
This won't take long. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
Another anime.
No one can stand
I wish I could recall the story of Zoids, but I remember the Liger model and the disposable Dinobots. Okay, so you watched the first series. Or wait, no. If you're talking about just like, I guess it depends on which Liger you're talking about. Did you watch the? Do you remember if it was the one at the tournaments where they would fight in like tournament battles? And there was the Gun Fox. So there was like a fox that could do that did like smoke screens and stuff. And then there was a Raptor, which is like a sniper rifle in its tail. And then you had the Liger, and that one it was the Liger Zero that could turn into like the Blade Liger. And then the other one was like the Universal Century War, basically, where they had a little T-Rex that would fuse with the Liger robot and like power it up
That was hardly worth dirtying.
in a Coliseum. Yeah, you probably watched the Liger Zero one, which I believe is like the second or third series. Because before that, there's a whole like Zoid War, basically.
This won't take long. Okay, you won't live to regret this. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
I watched a lot of Zoids. I watched a lot of Zoids. Used to watch a lot of Digimon. I watched for Digimon. I watched all the way up to where the kids actually turned into the Digimon. Fucking love that series. I thought that was so cool. I could too. We could sit here and talk about cartoons all fucking stream. I'm all for it.
Hardly worth dirtying my blade. This won't take long. Okay, next. That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
Yeah, I would watch that one every morning before high school. I like up until probably my junior year on UPN. It would come on at like 6:30 in the morning, and that's when I would like be up, like trying to get ready for school, and I would stop and watch it while I was getting ready for school. And I absolutely loved that series. And then I never really saw any of the stuff after that because like I graduated high school, I went into the Air Force and stuff, and just wasn't watching anything really. But up to that series was dope. Series 3 for Digimon, where the kids had the cards that they would like swipe, and you had Terriermon is the only one, and Renamon are the two that I remember the most from that. But in that series, towards the end of that series, there was one Digimon who showed up to like save this little girl and was basically like her partner, and it was Dobermon, and it was like a Doberman fucking Digimon, and I was like, oh, that's so fucking sick. Data Squad is a bit rough, but we got a cool evolution branch for Agumon. I have, and I need to find it, like charge it. I have one of the watches, the Digimon smart watches, where you could load in different eggs. I need to get a new one. I need to get like an updated one.
That was hardly worth dirtying my blade.
Alright, Battle Sentinel is done. What's the other ones here, though? That's weird. Because Battle Sentinel is Geo Greymon, which is a more aggressive Greymon. Interesting. I'll have to go check it out, because there's definitely stuff I want. Like, I tried to watch, I think it was Try, but I just didn't get too into it. But Metabots, Try left me feeling like something was missing. Yeah, I watched, I think, the first couple episodes, and I was like, I don't know about this. And then I just never went back to finish it.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Zatch Bell. Zatch Bell was a fucking wild ass show. I remember watching that a lot.
It won't take long. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Come on. I never got into Naruto. I actually think Naruto is one of the most annoying animes, and I think the Naruto Boruto The Last Evolution movie broke me. I never finished Metabots or Zatch Bell. We never got the end of either of them, if I remember correctly. Zatch Bell was dope. Zatch Bell was way cool. Same with like Shaman King. Shaman King was super cool, but that got handled so poorly, and that is a fucking disaster. Never get the inside of your ear pierced, by the way. Not worth. And I'm probably gonna go get my other one done.
It won't take long. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. It won't take long.
You don't plan to. I did it, so it's called a Doth piercing. And I did it because it's supposed to help with headaches. And it does. Pretty much, like, I would get really, really bad migraines. And I was getting them really frequently. And then I got this done, and I don't get them near as much. So I'm planning on going and getting my other side done. Because what it does and what it's supposed to do is it stimulates a nerve that affects headaches. And so I'm gonna go get my other side done eventually, so that both sides, and see if that really like reduces headaches and stuff. But at the same time, like I don't know if it's worth, like, honestly. It took a year and a half to heal, and then even now, every now and then, it's still pretty fucking. It gets pretty irritated. And you can't wear, or I haven't been able to successfully wear, like, earbuds. I wear over the ear, like, earphones now.
This won't take long. Okay, you won't live to regret this. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Which, I don't know. I like my noise canceling over my ear, especially when I have to travel.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
I have the F-Zero anime that only partially aired on 4Kids, but I'm curious to see how this property was expanded and handled in a different continuity. I know the story and the ending, but I want to get through the journey. I forgot about the F-Zero one. Fucking 4Kids, man. 4Kids. With fucking, let's see, was it 4Kids butchered One Piece. Tokyo, was it Tokyo Mew Mew? They changed the name of that and butchered the hell out of that. Like, 4Kids was like Tokyo Pop. Like, they just straight fucking lost their minds.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Oh, Gundam. Yeah, I was telling you about Gundam. So watching the... I can't hate 4Kids because it introduced us to a lot of things. I don't know that I hate them. I just know that, like, they handled things very poorly. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they did not do well.
Enemies for nothing. This won't take long.
It gave us the One Piece opening narrated by Seto Kaiba. Eh,
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
freaking Kaiba. One Piece, motherfucker, One Piece.
This won't take long. You won't live to regret this. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Okay, next. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
But with Gundam, so Gundam is rough because if you start with like the very first series is very rough. But it has a good premise. And originally in Japan, when Gundam aired, they were really banking on male viewers to kind of like carry the franchise and like bring the franchise to popularity. However, it was not well received by males at the time. Also because there's so many entries and movies that try to fix some continuity. Yeah, so there's some Gundam series I haven't watched, like the Gundam Seed series. I have not had a chance to dive into yet, so I don't. And I know that there was like a recent movie, and there's some stuff for that. And same with Gundam 00. I haven't watched Gundam 00 yet. I did watch, and they're broken down into different timelines, and so you have different series for different timelines. And I've watched a lot of the what would be considered the main continuity or the main timeline. And it's good, like, but it's rough, especially older Gundam. Like, older Gundam is very, very hard to watch nowadays, and very hard to get through these days. But the premise is interesting, because when they wrote and they were writing Gundam, it was like Galactic Army and Timeline. Yeah. So, yeah, with like the Federation and the Zeon forces. Like when Gundam started, what Gundam was supposed to be was a reflection on World War II and how World War and war in general affected the youth and affected kids. And so it's a really interesting introspection into how war like affects people and largely affects the youth of a country, or like the youth population involved in those wars. And it adds in like weird stuff because you got like Char Ansible and Amuro, who are what they would call new types, and all of that kind of like crazy stuff. Japanese Star Fox 64 has. Oh, the Red Comet?
Stay sharp, even against
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
For me, my favorite Gundam series is actually not part of the main continuity. My favorite series is actually the Build series, the Build Fighters and Build Divers.
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
Because I thought the premise of those was super cool, and the different Gunpla that are in that series are fucking awesome. And then Iron-Blooded Orphans, and then Witch from Mercury have been my favorites so far.
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
But we grew up, my brother and I, we started with fucking Gundam Wing, and then we had G Gundam, and G Gundam was goofy as fuck. Gundam Wing was like the edgelord of Gundams. It was trying to be the 2000s edgy kid.
Enemies for nothing.
And the asteroid field on one of the sectors, you fight a mech. Yeah. Char Ansible and his Red Comet.
It won't take long. Okay, you won't live to regret this. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. It won't take long. Draw. Freeze. I didn't fight all those enemies for
The
nothing.
only mech anime I saw was... Oh, dude, Big O. Big O was fucking good. I remember the theme song mostly for Big O. And just kind of like how dark it was. You know what I would love to see come back? No. Transformers is... I would say Transformers is different. I don't know that I guess you could technically call Transformers mecha. But I don't know that I would consider Transformers to be mecha. Transformers is also one of those weird series because, like, it wasn't Transformers. Like, it didn't start out as Transformers. It started out as a couple different series. And then over here, Marvel actually was the first company to write anything for Transformers. And they were basically hired, Marvel was basically hired to write, like, little mini comics for the toy series that they were bringing over here. Where they were borrowing stuff from like Diaclone and these other shows.
You won't live to regret this. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
So I'm waiting to see like how long before Disney and the MCU try to pull off having like Transformers in their universe. And fun fact about the first Robots in Disguise in the early 2000s was my jam.
Those enemies for nothing.
I watched, I'm trying to think of the 2000s, Armada was the one I watched in the 2000s. And then I don't think I watched past that.
Stay sharp, even against A+.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
How do we use this now? Only 217. Ugh. I'm doing this for the rest of my life.
It won't take long. Draw. Freeze. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Armada was weird. I'll give it that. Armada was weird. But it was fun. I enjoyed Armada.
It won't take long. Okay.
You know what there's one series that I loved, and I think for me, I think I can remember the last episode I saw. I don't know if it was ever fully completed, if it ever went and actually got like a full-on finale, or like an ending to the story. But the one
Fight all those enemies for
cartoon that I would love to see again, and that I would love to see like an actual completion of, Magus XLR. I loved Magus XLR. I thought that was such a cool fucking show, and then it was just gone.
This won't take long. Draw. Next. Freeze. You won't live to regret. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Okay. Next. Freeze. I didn't fight
It
all those
was.
enemies
It was
for
so
nothing.
fucking good. I loved it. And I don't remember if it ever got finished. Like, I don't know that it ever did. But I could be wrong because, like, I remember the last episode I saw, and then I kind of, like, had all the high school stuff going on. So I was, you know, graduating and getting ready to move on. And so I don't think I ever saw if there was a finale to it.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Stay sharp, even against Joe.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
It didn't get canceled because tax write-offs, but the creators did explain the rest of the story. It got canceled because of tax write-offs. Damn, I hate that. I don't think that absolutely should not be allowed. Like, that should not be legal. There's, like, recently, there's stuff that we will never get back because of tax write-offs.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Hold on, because I gotta show you this before I get too into the weird history and story. Did I put it over here? Let me introduce you to something. Because if you haven't watched it, if you haven't watched it and you don't know about it, unfortunately, unless you can find torrents of it or you can find it archived somewhere where you can get it, you will never get to experience the greatness of this show. Because of tax write-offs, because of stupid fucking shit that Warner Brothers and HBO did, people will never get the end to this show. There was supposed to be one more season that would complete the entire story and finish this show. This is one of my all-time favorite shows. It's absolutely amazing, and it's absolutely heartbreaking that we won't ever get to see it done. The creator has since been working on a graphic novel to finish it. He's been putting together the last chapter as a graphic novel so he can try to finish the story. But this is Final Space. This is a limited edition poster created for the 5-year anniversary of the show. I was very lucky to get one. But this is an amazing space opera. It had amazing comedy. It was one of the most amazing fucking shows. And they canceled it. And you cannot stream it anywhere. It was taken down and used for a tax write-off. And I will never fucking forget that. I have the show on one of the hard drives. Yeah, dude, it was such a good show, and I was waiting for the end, and then he came out like while they were trying to get funding and get the final chapters written, so get the last series for it done, and said, you know, they pulled it, they killed us. And then they took it down. It's been taken down off of HBO Max. You can't stream it anywhere. It's lost. Basically, it's become lost media, and it fucking sucks. Oh, and if you're curious, it's peppermint. I use peppermint for headaches. Yeah, it's an amazing show. The comedy was very kind of like dark humor. The action was very good. The overall like story was very, very nice. The way that they handled some of the characters,
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
just so good. And then some of the characters that they introduced, like, we will never get to finish their stories, and it's sad that we won't get to see, like, the end of Ash's story. We won't get to see the end of Little Gatto's story.
Fight all those enemies.
Internet Archive chances once again with seasons 1 through 3. Hell yeah. I'm hoping when it does finally get released, I can snag a copy of the graphic novel.
This won't take long. Okay.
You're dead.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
We gained the Battle Master Sovereign title. A title that honors those who have fought in over 2,500 battles. Will you ever stop? Oh, nope. Can't do it, game. Sorry. 2,500 battles. We have hit the 2,500 mark.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
I wonder if... Hold on. Where... Come here. If I go back here... How many times I can do this in a battle? Oh. Oh, I could probably turn his art off and then just... like... swing in a battle until...
It will take more than that to stand in our way.
that shit's mastered. Let's see. 245. Titular Troubles Part 4. Tim Allen hacks the kid. Eventually people are going to get curious about that title and they're going to come in and they're going to be like, what do you mean? Like, let's talk about Tim Allen. And I'll be like, oh boy, here we go. It all started... Actually, I got to look something up because I don't know the exact date. It all started in 1971 when a man known as D.B. Cooper pulled off one of the greatest heists of all time.
Even against chumps, last chance to flee.
I didn't fight all those
I
enemies.
never trusted him with, with the claws of Santa. Talk about a movie series that had one too many sequels. And that's coming from a guy who's watched every Fast and Furious movie and loves every Fast and Furious movie.
Not bad, don't you think?
If we want to talk about like just how ridiculous franchises can get, it's definitely Fast and Furious. When you duct tape a Pontiac Fiero,
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
hard stance, Tim Allen isn't funny. I'm not a huge Tim Allen fan. I'm really not.
Stay sharp, even against chumps.
Which also might be part of why I am very dead set in this fucking conspiracy theory.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Okay, freeze!
Icy fangs, hold my lance, and come
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Okay,
I think Tim Allen was in an era of like comedians that, yeah, I don't think they were funny. Like, Vin Diesel isn't a good actor. I saw most of his movies and his Street Shark commercial when he had hair. I think it's hit or miss, honestly. I think he's had some good ones. And I don't know that he's had some bad ones. Or that he definitely has had some bad ones.
nothing.
like Triple X, the Triple X movies, not great, not good movies. But A Man Apart was actually a very good movie, and I thought he did really well in A Man Apart. Chris Pratt. Oh yeah, I don't see him. I haven't seen him in anything recently, so his time may be done for now. Back to Vin Diesel. The Riddick movies are actually, dude, I love the Riddick movies. They need to be finished. Like, we need to get the end of that story. We need to get to the end of that. So I do think Riddick needs to be done. But I think the Riddick movies were good. Fast and Furious is fun. It's dumb fun, but he's definitely not, like, the acting in that is not, you know, the greatest. But I love it. I love every second of it. And I think if you haven't seen it, the one movie that he is really good in, and it's just Vin Diesel being Vin Diesel, is fucking The Last Witch Hunter. Pitch Black saw the sequel, which was just called Chronicles of Riddick. Haven't played or witnessed Escape from Butcher Bay. I haven't done this. I never did Escape from Butcher Bay, but I did see the like animated stuff, the Furia stuff. Pitch Black was good. Chronicles of Riddick was. I like Chronicles of Riddick. Then the follow-up to Chronicles of Riddick, which was just Riddick, was just Pitch Black again, basically. But it also was not bad. And he's actually been trying to explore and finish the rest of the Riddick story, but he's been running into problems with the studios. But he basically owns the Fast and Furious franchise and the Riddick franchise, and so... For me, I don't know if there's like any. Well, there's definitely people that I refuse to watch. There's definitely movies that I refuse to watch. I refuse to watch anything with Melissa McCartney in it. I do not think she's funny. I do not think she's a good actor. And there was a period of time from like 2015 until like 2017 where she was like forced into every movie. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I loved Last Witch Hunter. I thought the movie was badass. But like anything with Melissa McCartney in it, I refuse to watch. I can't. I think she's one of the worst goddamn actors. Joey King. Anything with Joey King in it, I refuse to watch. Again, one of the worst fucking actors out there. I don't think The Rock is a good actor. I can't say, like, I think the only movie from The Rock that I really liked was The Tooth Fairy. It's just a dumb fun movie, and I will fight anybody who tries to tell me that The Pacifier wasn't a good movie. Pacifier is Vin Diesel's best movie, like they're hands down.
This is what happens when you misjudge your foe.
I don't really anticipate or am looking forward to any movies now. There's some that I get hyped for. I really hope for like the Ballerina. I'm stoked to see the Ballerina because I love the John Wick movies. I love Keanu Reeves. That's all I will say. He did the job. So the Ballerina, I'm pretty stoked for. If there's going to be one more John Wick, I hope they do that very well. But Keanu Reeves is kind of like, I don't know if we need to keep going with this, especially because it's very physically taxing. If they do a movie based off of his comic book, that would be pretty sick. I'd watch that. I do not look forward to any of the new remakes they are talking about doing. They want to do a sequel to Labyrinth, and I don't think that that's fucking necessary. I think it's a dumb fucking cash grab. I love the Labyrinth. I love Jim Henson, and I love, like, puppets and stuff from Jim Henson. Fraggle Rock. Whew. The fucking Fraggle Rock Live is coming through here. I'm so stoked. I'm gonna try and get tickets. But, yeah, nostalgia bait. Like, Scream. The last couple Scream movies, I enjoyed them. And I liked kind of what they were doing with the Scream movies, and now they're just reverting back to, oh, it's Sydney's story again, like basically going back to Scream 1, and I'm like, nah, I'm over it. Some of my favorite movies in recent years have been the Happy Death Days. One called Freaky. Ready or Not. You're Next. Like, I like kind of like campy horror these days. I think those are the movies I look forward to the most. It's just kind of like offbeat horror. Barbarian. Like, I went into Barbarian not knowing what was gonna happen in that movie, and came out like absolutely being like, what the fuck? But it was a fucking sick movie. Like, the movie was dope. Longlegs, all I'll say is it was a movie. Because I do not know how I feel about that movie. It was fucking wild. It was weird. It was very weird. But I just don't know how I feel about that movie. Transformers 1? Dude, Transformers 1. Not the first live action movie, but the newest one, Transformers 1. That movie was so fucking good. I can't stomach horror unless I'm with friends, and a lot of them I know through Fanflix, who explains them. So it depends on horror for me. Like, I didn't used to be a huge horror fan. I wasn't really like huge into horror, but there's good ones. Like I said, for me, it's campy horror. It's dark humor, just kind of like fun, stupid horror, which is what like the Happy Death Days are. They're a dumb slasher flick. Same with like Freaky. So Freaky it's a slasher flick, but it's Freaky Friday as a slasher flick. And Vince Vaughn is the villain, is the slasher in this movie, and he has to play and act like a 16-year-old girl because that's who he swaps places with, and it's fucking hilarious. It's such a good movie. But yeah, the CG Transformers movie, the most recent one that came out, was amazing, and I hope that we get more. I hope that they do more with it, because everybody behind that movie, everything in that movie, it was not marketed well, but the cast and crew did such an amazing job with that movie. And like, weirdly enough, even with the changes to like origins for Optimus Prime and Megatron in that movie, I still loved it, and I loved how they told the story, and it still conveys the same message as like the original, kind of like reasons why. Good to know that they did an origin take for Optimus as Orion. Yeah, and for me, like, I like the actual origin of Optimus Prime. I think
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
I think the original origin story is more powerful for Optimus Prime and Megatron in that Optimus Prime was basically he was a archival clerk who was listening to the speeches of D before he became Megatron. And I liked the caste system explanation of Cybertron as to why. Yeah, I won't like green light. Yeah, because no, like, and it's wild. Like, it's wild that it was not well received because it was a very well done movie. And it did an excellent job at kind of explaining how D16 becomes fucking radicalized and becomes Megatron. And you know, that's a huge thing with Transformers, and the whole freedom is the right of all sentient beings is something that was in the speeches of D16 before he became Megatron. Dude, I don't want to get into fucking Hasbro. I can't get into like, all I can say is fuck Hasbro. Like, fuck Hasbro. I'm willing to bet that Hasbro wants to crash and burn all their IPs. I wouldn't doubt it. They did it with fucking Power Rangers. They fucking absolutely did it with Power Rangers, and then they gave the Power Rangers toy line to somebody else because they don't want to deal with it anymore. A problem with Power Rangers 2, though, is the 2017 movie is people needed to grow the fuck up. Honestly, people needed to grow the fuck up. There's so many people and so many reviews where they complained. I think Playmates has the rights to Power Rangers now. At least the toy line. But with the 2017 Power Rangers movie, so many reviews, so many critics complained because, oh, it wasn't campy, it wasn't as camp as the show, and you know, there have been people for years who are like, we want to see a more focused, more kind of like a more focused, a little bit more gritty telling of Power Rangers, and it still had the camp, it still had the fucking Power Rangers camp to it, but it wasn't to the level that people wanted it to be, and so they threw tantrums, and basically the movie tanked. And I love that movie. I will fucking die on the hill that was a great Power Rangers movie, and they had so much more set up for it. They were going to introduce the Green Ranger, they were going to introduce Tommy, and I'm pretty sure if they would have kept going, we would have gotten into Lord Drakon. We would have gotten a lot. Bro, that was darker than this one. What the fuck were they on about? Yeah, no, that was a huge complaint about the Power Rangers movie. It was like, so one of the biggest complaints is people were like, oh, they spent too much time on the teens themselves and not enough time on them as Power Rangers, which I can kind of understand. Like, people wanted to see more of their Power Rangers suits and, you know, a little bit more of them as Power Rangers, but like, I think they did an amazing job at character building, and I think they did a great job at bringing the team together and building the team together. And I think that they had some actual real growth for some of the characters, especially Jason very early on. They had him as a fucking shitty person, and then had him growing as a character. Same with Kimberly. What Kimberly did was pretty shitty, and she was trying to grow from it, and they had her doing that. Yeah, but we're talking about people who just wanted the nostalgia hit from the 90s, and they didn't get it in the way that they wanted, basically. Because this next movie that I'll bring up got kind of similar complaints, and it drove me up a fucking wall. Now, things weren't perfect. They did some weird stuff with some of the lore for this movie. And they did some weird stuff in how they were telling some of the story for this movie that I don't necessarily agree with. What in the fuck? I need to figure out this fucking auto mod because it's pissing me off. Allow. Yeah, no. There's the Power Rangers community is a pretty toxic community. I try to stay out of it because, yeah, it's a fucking nightmare. Automod can fuck off too, yeah. Dude, Automod fucking a couple streams ago blocked out the word like poop head, and I was like, the fuck?
Stay sharp, even against icy annihilation.
But so I don't agree with the changes that they made in this movie. I don't agree with some of the lore and how they handled some of the lore in this movie. But Warcraft. Warcraft was an amazing movie. And this is coming from somebody who has spent the better part of 20 years playing World of Warcraft. I have sunk so much time into the lore and into the fucking game and getting invested in World of Warcraft. And I went to go see the movie with my partner, who has never played WoW, who knows nothing about Warcraft, who knows nothing about World of Warcraft. And she came out of that movie and went, that was fucking good. And she understood everything they were doing in that movie. And the complaints that I saw from critics about the Warcraft movie were complaints that, oh, well, this lore didn't make sense. Oh, well, if you weren't invested in Warcraft before this movie, then you wouldn't understand the movie. If you don't play Warcraft, then this movie isn't for you because you won't understand what's going on. And the biggest complaint I saw from a critic was, this movie isn't Lord of the Rings.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Draw! Break!
Last chance to flee.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
And they were mad because the orcs weren't like the orcs from Lord of the Rings. And then the Warcraft movie franchise died. And they've talked about trying to build on it, but it will never happen. You hated all of that? Yeah. And I get that the movie wasn't for everybody, but it was not a bad movie.
Stay sharp, even against icy
I didn't fight all those enemies for
Star Wars. I don't know how I feel about Star Wars. I know I didn't like the last trilogy. I don't like how they handled stuff for that. I do not like Rey, and I absolutely do not like Kylo.
This won't take long. Okay. Freeze!
But Rogue One is one of the best fucking Star Wars movies we've gotten in forever.
This won't take long. Okay. You won't live to regret. Freeze! I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Marvel never should have resolved the snap as quickly as they did. There's a lot of stuff that they could have done with the scrolls that they introduced
I didn't fight all those enemies.
before the snap happened even. So there's stuff that they could have done to make those movies a little bit better, but we immediately had the snap resolved. People absolutely hate Thor 4, but love Thor 3, and Thor 3 is probably one of my most hated Marvel movies. I'll throw hands for all nerd properties, especially Star Wars and Marvel. All I know about Rogue One is remember the Space Alamo. Hey, no worries. I'll be here. I will be here for another probably half hour. And then I'm going to go find ibuprofen, because this headache is weird.
This won't take long. Okay. Freeze! I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. nothing. This won't take long. Draw! You won't live. Freeze! I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Okay, you break. You won't live to regret. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. You're right, you didn't. You fought them to have mastered what? Oh. So that'll be mastered here pretty soon, and then we can work on Battle Hardened Lord. I'm wondering if like the next one is like 5,000 battle. No, because it's not the same symbol. I wonder like what these are. That has to be skit related, right?
Stay sharp, even against
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Let's actually pull it up. Battle Hardened Lord. 750 battles. 1,500 just to get the first thing off of that one. Hot damn.
This won't take long. Okay, you won't live to regret this. Next, I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Stay sharp, even against
Freeze! You won't live to break. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Let's look. Hospital. Titles. Oh yeah, so we can't get some of these until we finish some of the chapters and some of the side quests. So at level 45, we'll get a title. What level are we now? 44. And then level 60 all the way up to level 200. Okay. Won 10 battles within 10 seconds. Do I have that one? Flash Swordsman. Did I change it? I don't think I have that one. Okay, so I don't have the... yeah, it doesn't look like I have the Flash Swordsman title, which is win 10 battles within 10 seconds. I have the Slayer, I have Berserker, I have Art Apprentice, right? I think we were just doing, we just did one of the art ones. Where is it? Oh, I do have Flash Swordsman, okay. Smith, Pilferator, Critical Hitter, Strutter, Lord of Loot. Where do I not have Art Apprentice? Oh, Art Apprentice, Art Authority. So there's one more for Art Artiste, which is use 4 CC arts 1,500 times. We've got Fighter. Do I have Prolific Fighter? No. So we don't have prolific fighter or prolific fencer. For prolific fencer, we have to use burst arts, so the ones I'm doing now 9,000 times. Holy shit. I see one we won't be able to get because I don't think any of these matches have had 4 enemies. They've always been 3. But there's one that says we have to defeat 4 enemies at once 10 times.
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
Okay, so we have Heart of Graces. So that's chapter 8. Participate in 150 battles as Asbel. We definitely have that. 100 battles, 300 battles, all the way up. So we have all the way up to 250 battles. We can't get the enemy book full, so we won't get those ones. Skilled Artisan. Sold a weapon worth 50,000 gold or more. And then Master Artisan. Sold a weapon worth 200,000 gold or more. That's going to take a lot to get to. Can I cook curry? I don't think so. I don't think... Oh, dry curry. Can it be any curry? In battle when someone is KO'd, so that's going to be hard to do. And then all of the adept ones, we're working on those now. Yeah, so basically all we can do is get the mastery titles for what we have. It looks like a lot of the titles that we're missing we're going to have to play through the game to get the rest of those titles.
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
Warcraft is something I probably won't get into, but for a movie, people needed to remember that you can't fit everything into a 2-hour flick. Yeah, it was good. It was, like I said, I love Warcraft, and there's a lot of lore for Warcraft. There's a lot of stuff that they can explore in that movie, in multiple movies.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Marvel is probably one of my most heated topics, and I try to avoid talking about like Marvel and choices that Marvel has made.
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
Star Wars, I don't really get into Star Wars. Star Trek, never got into Star Trek actually. So I don't know about Star Trek. I used to love the Scott Pilgrim movie and absolutely hates Michael Cera Scott. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great, but I'm not a Michael Cera fan at all. I think that dude's fucking weird as shit.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Stay sharp, even against ghosts.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Next, freeze! Freeze! I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
I mean, I don't know much about Scott Pilgrim for me to be able to say otherwise. Like, the only thing I ever knew from Scott Pilgrim was the movie, so I didn't know until after that it had been like a novel, like a graphic novel series.
This won't take long. Okay, freeze! I didn't fight all
Now that the hype is over, I'd like to give a proper critique of the Marvel movies and maybe even hate watch them because they came out when I was in high school. I mean, Marvel has good ones and it has bad ones, and I will absolutely say that superhero fatigue and Marvel fatigue is real. Like, I used to be all hype about Marvel movies, and then slowly I was like, I'm not happy with this, and it definitely kicked in, and then right at fucking Endgame was when I was like, you know what, I'm pretty much done with this. Like, I was getting burnt out, and I was getting tired of Marvel beforehand, especially with some of those fucking movies, and then the Infinity Wars and Endgame just killed it for me. I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I was like, this is garbage.
Stay sharp, even against
Civil War should never have been made, and it should never have been called Civil War. What they want to do with Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer and basically build into Galactus and all this stuff, like, they flanderized themselves. Dude, I loved Ant-Man. And honestly, like, I'll die on a hill that the Ant-Man movies are some of the best Marvel movies that we've gotten.
This won't take long. Okay, next. Right. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Okay. Right. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
But I'm also, like, I love Paul Rudd, and I think Paul Rudd did an excellent job as Scott, so...
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Yeah, I guess I could see it.
This won't take long. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Stay sharp, even against
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
If we want to get into really bad, really just terrible handling of superhero movies, let's talk about Zack Snyder and the DC movie.
Stay sharp, even against chumps.
I think we are going to be 4 for 4 for fucking
Fight all those enemies
FF
for
movies.
nothing.
I don't know who in the MCU studios is like being like, this is what we need to do. They don't know how to handle Marvel, and they don't know how to do build up. And that's a huge problem that I have. We had this build up for Thanos, only for Thanos. Look, Thanos' whole premise in the MCU is fucking garbage. We should have gotten the Mad Titan. We should have gotten the fucking insane Thanos who wanted to impress death, who wanted and loved death. And that's the Thanos we should have gotten. We should not have gotten resource-conscious Thanos, because that is not who Thanos is. That is not Thanos' story. And it was terrible. And then they introduced the Skrulls, and they should have built up the Skrulls more. Civil War should not have been a minor disagreement between mom and dad,
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
because that's what Civil War was a minor disagreement between Tony and Steve.
Stay sharp, even against chumps.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Shang-Chi was fun.
This won't take long. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
And that was the last Marvel movie I saw, was Shang-Chi.
Stay sharp, even against chumps.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
But if we're gonna look at the DC universe, oh my god. Unfortunately, the DC universe has 2 really good movies, 1 decent movie, and then the rest is garbage. Man of Steel was weak. Man of Steel was so fucking weak. And the whole stuff built around the Justice League was terrible. Justice League, fucking Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, The Flash, all of those movies were garbage. All of those movies were fucking garbage. Now, I'll have a caveat to this. I will add to this, because the actor for these movies has gone off the fucking deep end and is kind of outing himself as a little bit of a shitlord. Shazam was the first actual fun movie for the DC universe. Bro, we will fucking, I will die. We are gonna fight right now. Blue Beetle was one of the most fun fucking DC movies I have seen. I loved Blue Beetle. I thought Blue Beetle was fucking awesome, and I really wish that they would have explored characters like Blue Beetle more in the fucking DC universe, instead of trying to make it this dark, gritty, fucking whatever the fuck Zack Snyder was doing. Because Blue Beetle and Shazam were the most fun movies out of the entire DC line. And then Shazam 2 was okay. It wasn't, like, it was fun, but I understand, guys, the terrible casting and writing under his family. I guess. Like I said, I loved it. I loved Blue Beetle. I thought Blue Beetle was great. I thought it was one of the most fun movies that we have gotten in the entirety of DC. Oh, Jamie Reyes. Yeah, and Blue Beetle is actually one of my favorite characters. Blue Beetle and Booster Gold are like the two characters that I fucking love in DC. So, I've seen screenshots for Guy Gardner. I've seen screenshots for Green Lantern, and I fucking hate them. And I do not understand why we can't get a fucking decent Green Lantern. The Flash, both the actor and the fucking movie are hot fucking garbage. I don't know how I feel about the new Superman. I do not like James Gunn. I will put that out there. Oh, you know what? Another movie that I did have fun with, but was not one of the greatest movies ever made. It could probably be listed as B tier. The first Suicide Squad movie. The only really, really bad thing about that movie was the fucking attempt at Joker. Like, that Joker was fucking garbage. But he wasn't in the movie long enough to really impact the movie. And the villains, there was a costume change at the end of that movie. And the villain looked a lot better before they did that costume change. But the rest of that movie was really fucking cool. The second Suicide Squad was alright, and that's when they really started to lean into John Cena, and I was kind of just like over it. Like, I haven't watched whatever his fucking show is, and I probably won't. I wish we could get a Batman Beyond. Let me get fucking Red Hood. I'm not a Batman fan. I think Batman is one of the most, coming from a Hispanic family, I get what the movie was doing, but George Lopez was terrible. The funny bits with his family are bad. The serious stuff is great, especially Jamie wanting to support his family, but there's something about it that ruined it. I guess I could understand that. I mean, and that's valid. Like, that's absolutely valid. I mean, I don't think George Lopez is ever funny, so... Well, that's not true. I guess I did watch the George Lopez show, and it had some pretty funny parts.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. for nothing.
Love the second Suicide Squad, Starro and Peter Capaldi. I mean, I didn't mind the second Suicide Squad. I don't think it was bad. I don't think the second Suicide Squad was, you know, terrible, but
Stay sharp, even against
I didn't fight
the
all
script
those
George
enemies for
Lopez was
nothing.
given was bad. That's fair. Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Stay sharp, even against last chance to flee.
You won't live to regret. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Draw. Next. Freeze.
I guess for me, like looking at it, it could have been worse. They could have had fucking Carlos Mencia. And I don't think Carlos Mencia was ever funny. I just think Carlos Mencia was an asshole. Or it could have had Gabriel Iglesias. I do not think Gabriel Iglesias is funny at all. I think he's one of the most annoying comedians to come out of the 2000s.
This won't take long. Okay.
But I guess it could have been worse.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
I haven't brushed up on my construction criticism skills in a very long time. This is bad because of X actor. I mean, sure. I can see why people would not enjoy Blue Beetle, and I can see from your perspective like why it wasn't a good movie, and it's definitely valid there. Like I would definitely say what your feet, like the way you view it and what you have to say about it is absolutely valid, and it makes sense to me. It does.
I didn't fight all those enemies for
Yeah, I mean, I could see that some of those choices were probably not the best choices, and how they handled some of those situations were probably not the best situations, and probably could borderline on prejudice in a way, or like very ill-informed, that could be seen as kind of like racist or derogatory. Yeah, I could understand that. I could see how they handled George Lopez's character being fairly derogatory. So, looking at it in that light, kind of gives a different perspective on the movie for sure.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. Draw. Break. You won't live to regret.
Carlos Mencia steals chokes, and Gabriel is funny to people who haven't heard the typical Hispanic/Mexican struggles or fat jokes. Valid? I don't know. It was just, I do like that they acknowledge Ted Kord. I liked the Blue Beetle lore in general, I guess. I think for me, I like that we were getting a character that we hadn't seen, and they were actually like going into a character that isn't commonly explored. Like we always get Wonder Woman. We always get Wonder Woman, Flash, Batman, Superman. Like there's the main like A tier fucking Justice League that we've gotten so many fucking movies for. But like Blue Beetle, we rarely ever see Blue Beetle, anything from Blue Beetle. Same with like Booster Gold. If we ever get a Booster Gold movie, that'll be so fucking cool. Yeah, the Trinity is always done. I'm not a Superman fan. He has good, certain arcs of Superman are great. There's certain moments in Superman that are amazing, but I think Superman is one of the most absolutely fucking boring superheroes. Same with Batman. I think Batman is so fucking boring, but the supporting characters and the other characters in Batman are some of the most amazing fucking characters. I love Red Hood. I love Nightwing. I love some of the Robins. There's some Robins we don't talk about, but some of the Robins are absolutely amazing. Batman's villains are so well done, but Batman himself is so overdone and he's boring. Now, that being said, and me not being a Batman fan, I actually enjoyed Robert Pattinson's Batman. I thought that movie was great.
Those enemies for nothing.
Dude, I would love for Booster to be done and done well.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long.
I'm very curious how they want to do more with that. There has been talks where they want to keep it more grounded, so we probably won't get some of the outlandish Batman villains. But I'm still interested to see how it goes. I would love to see a fucking... They are and have been in talks, though, of doing a Clayface movie. A fucking Clayface horror movie. And that would be sick. But I don't know how they would do it. Like, I don't know that... One thing I disagree with that movie studios have been doing lately is been doing characters that rely heavily on other characters as solo outings. So, like, Clayface is very dependent on Batman, and Clayface's stories are very dependent on Batman. And doing a Clayface movie without Batman sounds absolutely stupid to me. And I will reverse that. Doing Venom without Spider-Man is fucking stupid.
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
You can't even have the Venom symbiote without it having been part of Peter Parker's life first. That's plain and simple. Venom doesn't exist without Spider-Man. You just have the Clintock symbiote. A noir movie with a question? That would be dope.
Stay sharp, even against
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Now, that being said, I did watch all of the Venom movies, and they were okay movies. The first one was probably one of the best of the three. The way that they handled Carnage was garbage. But the way that they handled the Eddie Brock symbiote relationship in all three movies was good. And I was kind of a little heartbroken at the end of the third movie. The third movie was decent. It wasn't anything to write home about. But yeah, they need people who, like, one of the biggest things here is we're gonna get this actor to fill seats. We don't really care about the stories we're telling. We don't care about the source material. We're just trying to make an action movie that will fill seats. And I hate it. I hate that mentality. I hate we need this movie to appeal to the most common denominator of an audience.
I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing. This won't take long. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
There's a lot of movies that people miss out on too because it hasn't been marketed in a way that would appeal to the most common of audiences. A movie, so I cannot say that I've seen any other what would be deemed South African cinema, or movies that have come out of South Africa, and maybe there's a bunch of fucking hidden gems there. But last year, we got a movie. We got Boy Kills World. It is a South African production with Bill Skarsgård. It is an absolutely amazing movie. But it was not marketed in a way that the common audience would go see it. And so it tanked. And it's very sad that the movie tanked, because it's a absolutely brilliant movie. It is so fucking fun as a movie. Let's go even more retro. A Phantom reboot. Billy Zane can be... Dude, that would be dope. I remember that Phantom movie. That movie was sick. There was another one too. Was it The Shadow? I think that came out about the same time as The Phantom. Like, those movies were cool.
This won't take long. You won't live to regret it. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
We got about 5 minutes left. Where are we at? Alright, so for this title, about 10,000 to finish this title, and then this one needs 1,500 just to get the first star, so that's going to be very fun. I think so. I vaguely remember the movie. You know, another like really cool series. It was a television series, but it was like a superhero series. The Cape. The Cape was, or no, the Hood. The Hood was fucking sick, and you know, I would love to see more of the stuff like that. If we're gonna explore like other characters, like let us explore other characters within some of these universes, because you know, we get the Phantom, like the Shadow. There was a couple others that were part of that whole universe, and I can't remember.
Fight all those enemies for nothing.
I will look it up, because the Phantom had like a universe of heroes. Also, where's the Hanna-Barbera universe? Let's get some of those heroes. Let me get fucking... Where's the Herculoids? Let's get the Herculoids going, man. Or Johnny Quest. Like, let's get Johnny Quest. Like, let's bring Johnny Quest back. The Phantom. Who was his like universe? Defenders of the Earth. Never gonna happen with HB because of the Scoob movie. I actually liked the Scoob movie. Defenders of the Earth. Who were the characters? Flash Gordon, the Phantom, Mandrake the Magician, Lothar. Like, where are all these characters? Like, there's so many characters that have just kind of, like, disappeared.
This won't take long. You won't live to regret it. I didn't fight all those enemies.
But yeah, like, I liked the Scoob movie. I thought the Scoob movie was fun.
Stay sharp, even against Chopper.
You won't live to regret it. I didn't fight all those enemies for nothing.
Stay sharp, even against Chopper.
Mexico had a radio drama of a character called the Great Khali. Think a Middle Eastern man with Bruce Wayne's resources, a sidekick, ward trainee, and a bit of Moon Knight. Oh, that sounds fucking cool. Honestly, like, and it's not for like a lack of trying, because like I took some Spanish classes in high school and like I tried to learn Spanish. I think there's some like way sick stuff out there that I missed out on because I didn't speak Spanish. Because I remember seeing some like cartoons on some of the Spanish channels, and I was like, what is, like, I had no idea what I was watching, but man, that shit was fucking cool. I have a friend. We have a bit of a joke because the first time we met, he had just been hired to my team for this job I was working on. I had just hired him. He had just come onto my team for us to work together, and so I was at a concert, and he was at the concert as well. So it was one of the first times we met up, and we were just chit chatting back and forth. And he was like, I was like, so where are you? Like, where's your family from and stuff? Like, where are you from? More so trying to ask like, where in the United States was he from? Because he had come from California, like he had moved from California. His family was in Idaho. So I was just kind of like, where are you coming from? Like Idaho? Where are you coming from? He's like, actually, we're from Peru. And I was like, oh. I was like, actually, that's pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, you know, Peru is a country that doesn't exist. And it's always been like a joke between us that Peru doesn't exist. It was campy and pulpy, but I miss when things were fun and not too serious with Zack Snyder stuff, or too casual with Marvel. There needs to be a middle ground. I agree. Yeah. It just needs fun. Like, I think it just needs to be fun, and the characters need to be understood. But my buddy, like, we have had, like, he would tell me stories, which I think is like Peruvian folklore, about like how the mountains were giants, and the pan flute was meant to keep the giants asleep and stuff. And I always thought that like those stories were so fucking cool. like I love learning like and seeing other cultures like folklore and ghost stories and superhero stories and all of that. Like America does not, like, America has some good stuff, but like America does not. There's no such thing as American folklore. I'm sorry, there's not. And when people are like, well, what about Johnny Appleseed? I'm like, well, that shit's fucking garbage. Like, it's not. Come back to me when we have like real American mythology, because we don't. We do not have American mythology. But like learning mythology from like Mexico and stuff like that shit's so fucking cool. What money do we have? 66,000. All of our current media is derived from somewhere. The only thing that we have is talk tales. That means nothing. Yeah, tall tales. I got you. Yeah, like I love if I could learn like other cultures. Like I try to learn what I can anywhere I can. I love other cultures like folklore, especially their like ghost stories and their like cautionary tales that are like, you know, like in Japan they have, you know, the yokai and certain yokai. Like if you're walking home alone at night, you know, these are things you need to be aware of. And like I love those tales. You have your own kaiju? Oh man, we're gonna have to talk about that on the next stream, because that's gonna be fucking cool. Paul Bunyan? Oh, yeah, get out of here. Paul Bunyan and Babe. If they were to go up against a real fucking kaiju, let's be real. Here I thought you were gonna regale me with a tale of like something fucking cool that I didn't know about, like Mexico or like Mexican culture. Paul Bunyan. And actually, I don't know a lot about it, but one of my favorite things that I've ever seen out of Mexican culture is actually Day of the Dead. I love seeing stuff for Day of the Dead. Nah, in Mexican culture we don't have kaiju, mostly cryptids, specters, and legends. Alright. But, I mean, that shit's still fucking cool to learn about, and if you have stuff that you could fucking tell me, I'm absolutely down to learn about it, because that shit is so fucking cool. Alright, let's go ahead here, not pause, let's system, no screen. Alright, we are calling it for the night. I have a massive headache. I'm gonna go find some ibuprofen and figure out what to do with these movie tickets since we didn't get to go see the movie tonight. We will be back tomorrow. I've got family dinner. We're gonna go visit my partner's family for a little while, and then we will be back later on tomorrow. For some riff tracks. We will be kicking back and making fun of some old 90s Fox Kids shows that we found. Some very terrible attempts at trying to do like a tokusatsu here in the United States. So we're going to watch some of those. We're just going to hang out and riff tracks. So please join us tomorrow for that. And then we will be back on the grind of Tales of Graces on Monday. We've also got our throwback streams coming up. We're going to do Throwback Tuesday and Thursday, so we have some PS1 games we're going to jump into, some old PS1 titles, just to kind of break up the tedium of title grinding. But thank you everybody for coming and hanging out. Thank you for just chit-chatting and, you know, chilling with us. I'm going to see if there's anybody we can raid, but if there's not, we're just going to call it for the night. Thank you for hanging out with us. Have a great night. Y'all are awesome. Take it easy, everybody.